Welcome to another episode of the Above the Business podcast. My name is Bradley Hamney, your host. On today's episode, we have Steven Montgomery. He's the founder of ResiBrands, that stands for Residential Brands. On today's episode, we talk about all things franchising. Regardless if you own a franchise or not, there is absolutely something about the way franchises operate, the things that they have that we can take away for our own business. Did you know that statistically, franchises have such a lower, much lower failure rate than all of the other businesses? And we get into some of those reasons in this episode. I love talking about systems and processes and ultimately having an operating system to run the business so it's not dependent upon you. That business can run and grow without you. And I think this episode is ultimately going to help you to do just that. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Steven Montgomery. Steven, welcome to the Above the Business podcast.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you with us. So we love to start with background and origin story, kind of see how people got to where they are today. Why don't you take us back wherever you would like and bring us to present day?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm a college dropout. I went to a Bible college actually for about a year and a half. Met my wife there. That was about all I needed out of college. And dropped out, started doing some subcontract work for a painting company, as well as waiting tables and doing a mix of different things. And about 3 weeks after we got back from our honeymoon, I was pressure washing homes for this other company. They had sold all these Groupons and they had me pressure washing 3 homes a day. And so I was soaking wet and smelt like bleach every day and making $150 a day. And I called my wife and I was like, hey, look, like I can paint homes. I know real estate agents. I can make this work. I want to quit today. I figured out that with what you make at Starbucks, we can pay for rent. If tips are good, groceries, and I'll figure out the rest from there. And so she was like, let's do it. And so I called my boss, gave him a 1 day notice. and and I thought I had this house booked for like $2,700 or so for a customer that I knew through a real estate agent. And that was going to kind of be my seed money because I only had $12 in the bank. But I was like, I'm going to get a deposit from this guy. That'll kind of be how I kickstart my business. And so I quit my job, and then that guy cancels the paint job. The customer that I thought I had lined up canceled. And so I had no customers, no money, nothing. And I just started knocking on doors. And I had a rule for myself that if the sun was up, I was gonna be working on something. And so I would knock on doors every single day until a customer gave me a job for the same day or next day. I would call real estate agents, swing by real estate offices, and pretty quickly I had so much work from referrals that I didn't have to knock on doors anymore.
Hmm.
I started hiring friends, teaching them how to paint. This was all in 2011. Grew over a decade to one of the biggest painting companies here in Texas. And then in 2021, started franchising my original business, That One Painter. That took off. We started selling a lot of franchise units. So a year later, we decided to start ResiBrands. Resi is short for residential. ResiBrands, and we started offering other home service concepts as well. A couple of them through acquisition and a couple of the businesses we started. So we're like 3.5 years now into franchising with nearly 700 franchise units.
Man, that's great. I want to
Yeah.
go back to some of those threads
Yeah.
from the early days. What was it? Do you remember the moment that you decided that you were going to uh, step into? You probably didn't have this word, but entrepreneurship. Do you remember the moment you were like, you know what? I think I'm going to own my own business.
I think that I was about 11 and I was doing a paper
Mm.
route. And I remember making money for myself at like 11 and 12 years old doing that paper route. And I think ever since then had an itch for it. So I was always doing side jobs in high school and whatnot. Even when I was in college, I was always thinking about different things that I could start or do. I thought I was going to get into marketing and videography. That's what I was passionate about. But My dad was a painter for a little while, so I kind of learned how to paint with him in high school, and I had always done side jobs and whatnot, and so I just had this itch for it from a super young age. I like, to me, like, I don't know, remember any one moment other than that day with, when I called my wife and and saying it has to be today. I remember that day, but I just feel like it was always there since I was a kid. Like, I couldn't. I was not a great employee. Like, when I was waiting tables and stuff, like, I just wasn't a good employee. Like, I just I had this sense that I needed to do something for myself. I don't mind working hard. I actually love hard work. I think work is super important. Um, but I really, like, needed to feel in control of what I was doing. And I feel like I've always had that ever since I was pretty young.
I think so many of us that listen to the podcast and myself, some level of, I didn't use this language, but I mean, this becomes umbrellas.
Yeah.
Curious what resonates with you, like freedom and flexibility and financial success. Like I'm in the driver's seat of
Yeah.
it. And I agree with you that while I don't have a story of selling tomatoes, from the
Mhm.
family farm per se or whatever,
Yeah.
there was then a sense of independence
Yes.
that I wanted. Myself. I was in the corporate world before I started my first business
Hmm.
around the same time, as a matter of fact. So 2010 is
Yeah.
when I started mine. What was it for you? What was it for you then? And then what is it about it? Because I personally believe once you go to become a business owner, you're unemployable at that point. Like, once you've tasted it, like going and actually working for someone else generally is just like absolutely not. That's why a lot of companies that when they sell and they put earnouts in, those like year to 3 years for that entrepreneur are just torture because
Yeah.
they're not accustomed to reporting to someone else, especially in the company that they just sold. What resonates with you?
Freedom for sure. I mean, even in those early years, I had a number of job opportunities through people that I knew that there was job offers to make more money working for someone else. And at those early years, I was making on my own. And I just could not stomach the idea of not having the freedom to do what I wanted when I wanted. And uh, that sense is something still feel today. Like, I need that autonomy. And uh, I think that there's a lot of people out there that relate to that, and they might not have even taken the step yet, but they feel it. And I think that's that. The E-Myth calls it the entrepreneurial seizure. At some point, you'll have that seizure where today's the day I'm doing it. It's enough is enough. I'm going for it. But uh, I think a lot of people, for me, it wasn't very long. I was 21 when I started my business. But for most people, that they can sit there with that feeling for a decade, and then one day it'll spark.
Yeah.
It'll spark, and today's the day they're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's just different things will get people to that level to where it's like, nope, I got to do it. I got to go after it.
I know there had to be during those 10 years from 11 to 2021 that there were some tough times and challenges that you learned and developed skills along the way. Um, did you ever feel in that 10 years that there was did you also the other thing that I think all entrepreneurs have is in addition to the entrepreneurial seizure that makes them jump into it, I feel like there was also the common thread is there's also a period of time. For me, it was 5 years in, by the way. It was
Hmm.
2015. That they say, I call it the quitting fantasy, to where it's
Hmm.
like, man, this crap is hard. Like, this
Hmm.
is really hard. I think I would actually have more freedom if I actually went back and, work for someone. But
Yeah.
it's just that it's a fantasy. It's not something real. But there's this
Yep.
days you come back and you go, daggone, man, this is really, really hard. I don't know what I'm doing. Did you ever have that?
Of course. In home services, winners suck. Like, revenue goes down, cash flows down. So I say that like most guys in home services probably have quitting fantasies every winter. And when you're new to business, I feel like there's some level of that around month 4 to 6. I see a lot of franchisees around month 4 to 6 She's like, why did I do this? It was easier at my W-2. This is a lot of responsibility. This is hard. And then I tell everyone, because we have a lot of franchisees, and many that have been very successful, and some that are brand new and they're in the middle of it right now. Is you're gonna want to quit around month 6, and then you're gonna want to quit once a year after that.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's just how long do you let yourself sit in that moment? How long
Yeah.
do you entertain those thoughts versus shake it off and get back to work and build?
Yeah.
And wanting to quit or having anxiety or being stressed is just part of the game. And when you realize that that's normal, you can push through it and do what you need to do to actually get the job done and build something so big that you are not only proud of it, but that it has the systems and the processes and the team in place that maybe that weight isn't solely carried by you.
Mm, yeah. That leads me into this idea of franchising. It's before we hit record, I was telling you this, that it's one of the reasons I want to have you on is
Yeah.
because um, for a lot of people listening to this, they probably are not, they don't own a franchise. But there is such power. I think the statistics are, at the 5 year mark, 50% of businesses that started 5 years ago are out of business.
Hmm.
96% of businesses don't see their 10th birthday. I mean, those are
Hmm.
sobering statistics. But there's this subsegment of companies that has like only a 15% failure rate. Again, depending on where
Hmm.
you pull that data from, it could fluctuate a little bit, but there is a statistically significantly less chance of failure
Yeah.
from franchises. And for me, it was helpful. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I read something to where, licensing is like CrossFit. You're taking the name, but you're
Yep.
not necessarily taking a system, right? We're going to be
That's
the
exactly right. Yep.
Bradley CrossFit name, and I get pay the licensing fee to be able to use CrossFit and advertise as a CrossFit, but I'm not really buying any system. But if I'm franchising, okay, I'm buying the name, but then also the proven system that goes
Yes.
along with that that helps me to successfully be able to kind of bend the odds in my favor, stay in business, and let alone even grow it to multi-million dollars and in revenue and then and in profit. Um, Correct me on some of that. Is that how you have seen it? What would have been your thoughts on what I just shared?
Yeah, I think that franchising is a way for you to get proven systems and processes and a trademark proven to work. And what that does is it doesn't guarantee success, but it reduces your risk of failure significantly. And there are a lot of stats out there, and I think they're a little bit all over the place as far as exactly how much, but it is pretty clear that franchising reduces your risk significantly. And so it does not guarantee success, but you are much more likely to be successful in a franchise than on your own. And it's because there's somebody that's already paved the way. They have systems, processes, SOPs, vendor relationships, discounts on products, so many things that give you a step forward that could be something that you might never be able to achieve on your own, or certainly things that would take a long time. Like day one, our franchisees get better prices on paint than local contractors are going to get. That gives you a market advantage when you're selling. Um, and so it also gives you a community of franchisees who are not just entrepreneurs, like, because you can, build community with entrepreneurs through networking events, but in a franchise you have a network of franchisees who are not just building a business, they're building exactly the same business that you are. And that's a unique advantage as well, because like it's not like, hey, what worked for you in that other industry that maybe I could learn from in mine. No, it's like literally they're building the exact same business using the same process and the same trademark right next to you. And that community is so powerful. And so you have the franchisor and the systems and processes, then you have all the other franchisees with that sort of like group think where it just keeps getting better and better until as that tide comes in, all ships are rising, right? So there's so many advantages to franchising. Franchising is not for everyone though. I think some people It might be hard to follow somebody else's processes. It might be difficult to not have any control over the brand. And they would want to build their own brand. And for those people, I would say that's not, don't consider franchising. It's really not for you. Some people are kind of lone wolves. They don't really want to be a part of a community. Definitely not good for franchising. But the people out there who want a business, they want proven systems, and they want a community to do it with, franchising is a really good option. And yeah.
How did you, in your own journey, before you got to this point, those 10 years, I want to take you back. Um, well, I'll ask this question. Who's the first person you hired, even if it was like on the side? After you got your first couple jobs, you were doing the job, you marketed, you sold,
Mhm.
you delivered, right? You did all the things. And then you
Yeah.
hired somebody. I don't care if it was like, here's $10 to help me with that. Um, well, ultimately you walk through that and then you
Mhm.
started actually building people. When did it shift from the genius with 1,000 hands to, oh, no, we actually have a system? You were not doing all the marketing, you were not doing all of the sales, you were not doing all the delivery and fulfillment.
So within that first year, I started hiring friends. So I just pay them up. Back then, it was like 12 to 15 bucks an hour to help me like tape off a house and like so I could spray it. I had a buddy who was like couch surfing basically between my house and some other people's houses, and I was like, dude, stop with this all this bull crap. Like just work for me full time for a while. Let's get you up on your feet. He was one of probably my first full time hire. I hired my brother for quite a while, a couple other buddies, taught them all how to paint. They worked with me for a long time. Eventually, most of them moved on to different things, but I ended up building up a pretty good team of painters. And then I moved on to more of a subcontracting route as we got bigger and started hiring managers and whatnot. But when it turned into something with processes in place, I would say it was around 2017, so probably 6 years in, to where I really started thinking through how do I scale this to something really big. And like at that time, I was living pretty comfortably. Like I had like three really great crews. I did sales half the day. My crews did all the jobs. I barely had to check on them. I was working like 30 hours a week, making good money, super comfortable lifestyle, and was really content from like 2014 to maybe 2017. And then in 2017, towards the end of the year, I was like, I think I can do more. Like I'm comfortable, but I'm not pushing myself anymore.
Hmm.
And so that year I started really thinking through. I started got us on a new CRM. I started organizing. I got my administrative tasks a lot more cleaned up, processes. I started writing SOPs for my painters. And it was around that same year I was reading like books like The E-Myth. I was listening to more business podcasts. And it was just starting to click for me that there's another level here where it's not Steven and a bunch of painters, it's Steven and managers and a whole team. And we start to go to multi-city. And pretty quickly I had doubled my revenue just by getting everything more organized. And then I got really overwhelmed and started hiring managers and an admin and all of that. And so yeah, but it took me 6 years, 6 years of just kind of me managing painters before I really got my processes in place.
Yeah. 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 I think I think that's roughly it. I mean, in my own story, the 10-second version is I completely burned out in 2015
Hmm.
um, because I was just doing all the things and I ran out of time. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until I met an entrepreneur doing 40 million, kind
Yep.
of in an adjacent industry, and he had made 5 million personally,
Hmm.
and I was like, wait, what? How much did you make? And he said, oh man, look, I just systems and processes. You got to have a good team. And I smarted off to him basically. And I said, I'm so tired of hearing that crap. Everybody talks about that. No, not a dang person shows me how to do it, you know? And it's
Yeah.
about that time I was reading books too, because I'd burn out and I was trying to I was working hard. It wasn't the hard
Yeah.
work. It was just like I'm spinning my wheels, and it took a while. It took a while to, but that planted the seed of like, okay, I'm doing this wrong. Like I'm doing this
Mm.
whole thing like all wrong. Given now, Sometimes it's the curse of knowledge. Sometimes, I
Hmm.
mean, given the fact that you help people with franchises, you think about this a lot. But what do you believe really is the right way to create a system where it really truly does delegate it well to other people?
Yeah.
So, what I mean by that is, what are some of the specifics that you all do for your franchisees that say that they're able to retain the information? They get the concepts. Are you doing a combination of physical materials, reading, online videos, tutorials, trainings? What's the all of the different learning modalities to be able to really transfer this information and skills to other people?
Yeah. So there's two pieces here. So we do all of that. So we do, like, when you join our franchise, each one of our franchises, you're going to get over 70 hours of online training. A lot of those segments are also available to your employees as a franchisee. You then get like a week long in-person training here, with our team and other franchisees. And then we also have the ability for you to do ride-alongs and whatnot with franchisees, as well. And so you get a mix of training styles, and that's how we deliver the information. And I think that something that's really important to understand, and was important for me to understand, is like SOPs, processes, and systems. Those are information, but they're only as good as they become behaviors. And so that's the real trick, is not whether or not you taught it and whether or not the information was received. It's whether or not it becomes an actionable thing they do every day. And so that means you have to take all of that information and then summarize it simply into something that they can remember every single day on how to be successful. And so we'll take everything that we have and then teach them all of it. And then at the end, we say, hey, here's your one sheet on how to be successful.
Mm,
And literally hand them, like, this is what a successful day looks like for a Pink's franchisee, or for a technician cleaning windows. Here's your one sheet. Do this. Never stray from this. And it's like, yes, there was hundreds of hours of other stuff that you went through, but just don't ever leave this. Like, stay here. like like all of that led to this simple truth here. And it'll be a couple KPIs, best practices on customer service. It's the things that we know, no matter what's going on, no matter what your experience level, do these things and you'll be successful. And so we make it as simple as possible in our processes, and hopefully as memorable as possible. And if we notice people aren't embracing it as a behavior, then we question how good the training was in simplifying it. It's not how
yeah.
good was it in like the information. The information might have been amazing, but did it become a simple practical step for them at the end of it?
Hmm. Um, I every time I'm that guy that I guess just I obsess over business and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, that and basketball. But um, every time I go somewhere and I'll see something that talks about franchisees available, I call it. I submit my information. Really, because I don't know if I'm actually interested in the thing, but I'm actually interested in how they present it, what they
Yeah.
talk about, all of these kind of things. And so I'm going to ask this question, and you may say, absolutely not. We don't do that. But some places do. There are people that, like myself, build or building a portfolio or a holding company,
Yeah.
right? And so where I don't want to be the owner operator, I want to
Hmm.
I want to own it and then put an operator into it to be able to run. What are your general thoughts on that, both for your franchise opportunities, and then also maybe just in general?
Yeah. I think people should build empires, and empires are built by building a big team. And so I'm very pro people putting in operators in their business if they have experience and capital to do so. If this is your first time jumping into business, like, it's best for you to get in it and grind and learn the ins and outs of the business. And so that's but and then sometimes people have a really high paying W-2 that they're just not quite ready to leave. So it's like, all right, work every night and weekend, but like but it's really the owner's. I believe it's the owner's decision on what they want to do as the strategy. I just don't love the words like semi-absentee or passive because it makes it sound easy. But and like I have businesses that I probably spend 1 hour a week on. It's one meeting reviewing the key important things, but I
Yep.
never feel passive or semi-absent. Like
Right.
I
Right.
care
Right.
about
Right.
it
Right.
deeply. And
Yeah.
so, and then the other piece to that I would say is like a franchise is supposed to be a scalable system, not just for the franchisor, but for the franchisee. And
Yeah.
so I believe that a franchisee should be able to own many, many, many things and be successful with operators in place. It just depends on their experience and capital.
Yeah.
And because when you put an operator in place, it could take a little longer because sometimes there's that owner hustle that gets things going a little faster, and
Sure.
it's naturally more expensive because you have that salary to pay for. And so if somebody has the experience and capital, like we have an entire system and process in place for them to hire operators and do that. If it's your first rodeo, I would say start a little smaller and a little and get into it as much as you possibly can yourself.
Yeah. 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 I agree with that. Well, that's why I kind of tiptoed my question because I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know how he's going to answer this, because
Well,
that,
there's
yeah,
a
a
lot
couple.
of there's a lot of franchise brands that don't allow it. So
Yeah.
the
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I've
yeah.
called a few of them and um, they were like, no, absolutely. No, we want you working as the owner operator. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, then I'm out,
Yeah.
that's not my, it's not
Yes.
my thought, but I do totally agree with you that especially if it's the first business. No, like you have to almost have gone through the fire
Yes.
to then
You
be able
you
to go
either
like,
gotta quit or you gotta quiet quit. Like
yeah,
right? Like you have to quit and actually just go all in, or you gotta quiet quit and every extra hour you have, put it into the business.
yeah, yeah, totally. Stephen, this has been great. I've learned a lot today. People want to connect with you and learn more about your opportunities and brands. Where would you point them to?
Yeah, ResiBrands.com. You'll see all about our different brands, the opportunities. You'll also see my socials if you want to connect there. It's all on ResiBrands.com.
Awesome, Stephen. Appreciate you
Hey,
coming on, man.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed that episode. I hope you all did. I try to bring on people that come at business from different angles and different perspectives. And Stevens is one I think that we can all really relate to. I do love the idea of franchising your business, even if it doesn't mean you actually franchise your business. I think having the name and the system of how you do things. And that's what I really love. Those are all just fantastic reminders, not only in my own journey, but I'm sure I know has related to a lot of you. So make sure you go and check out their website. They have a great website, ResiBrands.com. All right, big shout out to our podcast partners, Club Capital. If you want to be able to get on top of your financials, make better decisions so you know when to hire, when to take money out, when to reinvest that in marketing, etc. Club Capital can help you to get on top of your financials, whether it's coming up on the tax season or just in general to be able to forecast more revenue growth, more profit, and more personal income for you in the business. Go to club.capital. There's not many coaching programs that both help the business owner as well as the key employees in the business, but Coach P does that. So if you go to coachpconsulting.com, let him know you've heard about him on the Above the Business podcast. He's going to help you to be able to do just that. Coach P himself has been able to scale his business to remarkable heights across 3 different locations and has a massive team, and they're going to be able to share with you what's working today. CoachPconsulting.com. If you heard what Stephen was saying about having the empire for the business and having a big team, that immediately brings up an opportunity that you got to be able to recruit. And team members, or excuse me, business owners all the time talk about saying that they need to always be recruiting. But that gets difficult because we're wearing a lot of different hats in the business. Well, if you work with Autopilot Recruiting, they're going to help take that off of your plate. Go to autopilotrecruiting.com, autopilotrecruiting.com. Stephen talked also about the CRM that they've used. So the tech stack that you have in your business at this point is massive. It's so important the technology you use. My dad in his business, Clemens and Hamner Seed. They have been, working off archaic systems, and we're now putting in new systems for them to be able to actually really be able to grow that business, even in agriculture. And so the tech that they use and how they integrate with CRMs and being able to help the business to be more efficient, it matters. If you work with Today App Pro, they're going to be able to have a corporate approved CRM, or it's going to sync with your corporate approved CRM system seamlessly. Your team is going to love it, all at a very low cost. TodayAppPro.com. Well, it's a good segue. If you like what I talk about here on the podcast, you want to get out of the day-to-day working in the business, and you want to be able to not just even work on it, but even get above the business and really make the transition from being the operator in the day-to-day to become the true owner, CEO of your business. I'd love to help you. Come join me at my very next live web class. Go to blueprintos.com, and you can register for my upcoming web class on the homepage. All right, everyone. That was a great episode. Till next time, lead well and go be great.